Hello, hello guys. I don't know how long I'll be streaming for today, but I'm here regardless. It was kind of just a spur of the moment thing that I felt like playing, because I ended up not having time to play at all yesterday. And despite me kind of saying that I wasn't going to stream today because of the Elden Ring game coming out, ended up just going back on my word now. Gonna play a little bit, because I don't want to end up just feeling rusty. I feel like going one day without Smite is fine, but if I go more than one day, I feel so sloppy when I come back, so...
Select your god.
I'll do a Hades game, it's been a while. And if they're picking Apollo, then might as well pick something OP myself. I was gonna pick the Apollo. But oh well. I'm actually in the mood for Hades too. It has been quite a while since I played Hades now. And he is still fun, despite his, OP-ness. That kinda came out wrong. Oh, we already dodging. That's great. Classic first game of the day. If you can even call it a game. Well, at least I'm first pick this time. W dodge.
Select your god.
Maybe I just do an Aladdin game, actually. That's fine. I somewhat expected them to leave Aladdin open for a reason. But that's alright. I just need to farm for late game anyway, in the most cases, as Aladdin solo. So much for playing Apollo, though. But I mean, at least this time they didn't pick Apollo, so... That should be alright. I think it's honestly worse to deal with than anything else. But like, as a melee assassin, playing against that Apollo aspect, it's terrible. Damn, we're dodging. Damn, he dodged? Shit. Is that my fault? Maybe I didn't read chat. That is unfortunate. Maybe he dodged because they banned Fenrir. At least the Qs are fast. That's nice. Don't have to wait too long after these dodges. What if... Okay, I'm gonna do something else. I'm betting the Aladdin this time. Because then I can just pick the Apollo. Okay.
Select your god.
Never mind. Grab the Kali, I guess. Unless my team doesn't want it at all. I don't know who this guy is. Because the system is still weird like this. I can only assume it's the last person. Hello, missing legend. Alright, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. I wasn't planning on streaming today, but here we are. I thought I was gonna spend all my time playing the new Elden Ring game. Which I will do afterwards still, but I was in the mood for some Smite. I haven't gotten into a match yet, so that remains to be seen. I've had 2 dodges so far, and this is then the actual first game that hopefully will also not be dodged. But looks good so far. Alright, let's see what we got. I might go Aegis this game. They have some real shit to deal with. It's either that or beats. I think I'll do an Aegis game. You know what? Cancel that. Let's go Shell. When is Shell not the best? still do Book of Thoth? Maybe at the Doom Mark?
You have morbid taste.
Yeah, Kali is open. We'll see if it does anything though. I don't know who this guy is, so we'll see. I hope. But I would say our comp is better. Like, we have essentially 3 OP picks. We have 4 actually. Like, we have a super tryhard comp. Like, we have 4 bannable gods on our team.
I'm on it.
Like, Hades, Acne. Well, it's actually it's non-aspect Acne, so never mind. Damn, we have non-aspect Acne. That's crazy. Who even plays that anymore? It's just not as good in every way.
Minions have spawned. That's too bad.
And then obviously the Apollo as well as the Hades. Also gods that you see being banned decent amount. Actually not Apollo that much, which is still surprising. Because I do think that shit is ban worthy. But I mean, I guess people just hate being one-shot more. At least the Apollo isn't gonna one-shot you necessarily. It's just a pain in the ass. Oh boy. Just a little bit of lag. Can we not do this? Game? Anubis matchup.
Enemy missing left. Attack. Retreat. Take this jungle. No problem. Be careful.
You really just don't do any damage without Conduit. I do prefer Conduit on Hades because of this. I did actually swap a driver. I forgot. For a different game, I had to swap my drivers back to an older version. I hope that doesn't fuck with my smite. I'm sure it'll be fine. If not, well,
My soirees are the most
we'll see.
vivacious.
Aladdin Barre more broken? I don't think so. I think Kali is most broken god in the game at the moment. Assuming it's in the right player's hands. I think Kali is just absolutely insane. Aphrodite as well. But again, I always have like a competitive mindset. For ranked, like they're kind of equally broken. Because that's just how ranked is. Depends a lot on the situation.
I'll attack.
Don't really have anything.
I'll attack. Okay.
It's been unfortunate. Just my long ass cooldowns this early.
Enemy missing middle. Be careful left.
Oh, Volvo.
Herg? Nah, Herg is not in. Herg is terrible at the moment. He is. Unless something was buffed that I didn't realize, but Herg is generally one of the worst frontliners at the moment.
Enemy missing middle.
Like, he can still perform in the right hands, and he's definitely better in jungle, but in solo he's definitely dog shit.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Let me have a look at you.
It's happening in left.
Your middle tower is
There
under
we go.
attack. An enemy has been slain. Be careful right. Careful right.
Okay.
On my way. No problem. Going down. I'll defend. Completed.
The fucking support is here, man. No, he's jungler, never mind. This is Viva, so I just assumed he was support. Yeah, her jungle still does stuff. It's just comparatively to other junglers. Her jungle comes and goes a lot, I think.
Be careful.
But Hercules is one of those gods that he's very good at pushing a lead, but if he ever falls behind, he is the easiest kill in the game. So he's always this big high risk, high reward kind of god in my eyes.
Retreat left lane.
Like a lot of gods will still perform. Let's just Hades as an example. Maybe a bad example because Hades is just broken, but Hades will always perform whether he's behind or not. He always brings something useful to the table. And Herc does as well in the plug, but as a jungler, yeah, it just makes it tough to gank if you're falling behind as well.
Bye.
Enemy ultimate down. Retreat.
Yeah, Herc is just good early too. That's also a good point. Compared to other junglers, anyway. Because in solo, that's his main problem. He's terrible early game. Like, absolutely terrible early game. You cannot fight because you're just so long as cooldowns.
Okay.
So it's really hard to play around. Because solo is so much about early fighting and lane control, and then like going to one-shot waves, and then going to the jungle camps. They just always have something to do in solo. It feels like.
Your middle tower is under attack.
It's always something to go kill, and Hercules with the long cooldowns early on just does not like doing that, and he's bad at it. He has Shell. I mean, he should be the easiest kill of all time for me. I didn't even realize. I should have checked. But he actually just has Shell. He's never gonna be able to get out of my ult. Also, why is there an Artemis here? It's it's jungle Artemis. What? He's gonna chase me. That's great. I love being chased. Like, they have two junglers because of that. I just realized. So, like, what is Artemis even? Is that the ADC? No, because the Neath is the ADC. Is she mid? No, he's mid. Dude, they have two junglers. None of them have a support. I don't know who started where. She's dead as well.
Your right tower is under attack.
Help right lane. Help right lane.
On my way.
Have fun.
Yes.
Like, it does suck for Apollo, because, like, was he really gonna be able to do? I'm not sure, but he needs to try and help people out, because he can't just stay in lane, because they're still losing somehow. They're literally still losing the lane.
Be careful left.
On my way.
But they quite literally have two junglers running around and owning everyone right now, because we're just getting outmanned everywhere else.
Enemy has been slain. Enemy missing middle.
No, Aladdin is broken. I'm not saying he's not. What I'm saying is I don't think he's the most broken god in the game. He's been nerfed so much that people are overestimating him a little bit. In the right hands, he's still very good, but Aladdin has a terribly weak early game. There's definitely cases where you can take advantage of it.
The rain shall wash them away.
Like, look at Kali. Kali doesn't have a bad stage in the game. She's good early, mid, and late. That's a massive advantage for like an assassin in the jungle. I can't speak for her aspect though. Her aspect as an ADC is not something I've seen all that much, so I don't know how good it actually is.
Ward here. Bye.
Your left tower is under attack.
Well, this is looking a bit rough. We're getting some kills here and there, which is good, which is nice. We just gotta hold on. Anubis is playing this very safe now.
The enemy team has destroyed the gold.
I just gotta try and take all I can get.
Nice job.
shields, man. Shields are fun. They're great. And VBS is just running around doing whatever he wants.
Nice job.
Completed. Retreat.
Nice job. Have fun.
Your middle tower is under attack. Completed.
Yeah, this game is just super boring because the people I have on my team here aren't used to being against someone like, I guess, Vives in this case, and he just controls the game completely because of it. They don't know how to deal with double jungling. Because my dual lane is just getting shit on anyway, in the 2v1 situation. Mid's getting shit on. Like, me and mid are kind of getting shit on because of the double control they have with 2 junglers.
You killed.
Apollo, man, you're a fucking
Your
loser,
middle
bro.
tower is under attack.
Oh, man. Feels like they have wards everywhere too. Can't even look for a gank.
Your right tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Looking very rough. We just got a 1-for-1, that's whatever.
Your left tower is under attack.
Fabuloso. Have fun. Have fun. Have fun.
Enemies behind us.
On my way. Enemy
Kinda clean,
has been
honestly.
slain.
On her kinda playing that really well. Good job. Maybe that's hope. So far it's looking pretty fucking grim. Getting ganked by a fucking tank Artemis or whatever that is. Like who? So she is essentially supposed to be the support, but she built this and they still lost in duo. How did they even lose the early game? Like Apollo on her? I imagine it might be because of the Apollo. I don't know. I also just don't want to end up sounding mean because I'm just making assumptions.
Your right tower is under
But
attack.
I feel like we lost a lot more in duo than we ever should have against that comp. Like, Neath Artemis has clear, but like, what do they do if you go on them early? It's not like they have an amazing early game either.
Completed. Be right back. Your middle tower is under attack. Cancel. Be careful, right.
Yep, there it is.
Your middle tower is under attack.
That's too bad.
Riffy.
Just listen when I say no, buddy.
Bye.
Quiet.
I just wish he listened. Like, that was pretty much the outcome I expected. Because it's gonna be a Anubis into 2 targets that don't have anti-healing yet. He's just gonna heal the absolute shit out of this.
Enemy team has
And
destroyed
with Apollo
the
dashing in and just being a big health target, he's just gonna heal.
Enemy spotted. On my way.
As 2 damage dealers, we can potentially out-damage the healing that he does. But right now, I don't have enough damage to one-shot him, so he's just gonna heal it back up. And Bloodborne Book just makes it even harder to do anything about it. It's just super awkward what's happening in this game.
Retreat.
Somehow still ahead of him though, despite the kills that this guy keeps getting.
Enemy mission. Be careful, right.
Artemis is here in the jungle.
Oh, that guy's mic! Bro, your mic is rough on my ears.
Sorry.
It's that mic. Guys, I'm sorry, because I know that's probably louder for you, but it's on 10. I can't turn it down anymore without muting it. I don't know why it's so loud for you guys. I might just have to turn down Smite on the stream itself.
On my way. On my way.
them away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he jumped over the wall there. We're playing desperate, I see.
Your middle tower is under attack.
So it's not a bad call though. I just sucked that on her died.
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower
I'll
has been
attack
destroyed.
middle lane.
An enemy has been slain. Your
Defend
left
left
tower
lane.
is under attack. Retreat. Enemy ultimate incoming.
Okay.
Just had to make sure that when getting a tier 2. Now I can return. Maybe I can also kill the Anubis now that I have Poly.
Be right back.
Do have a bit more power now. It's definitely easier to try and kill him in a 1v1. Like, I don't want him to just lifesteal off of my allies when they try to gank.
Your right tower is under attack.
Yeah, I can imagine Vegas probably did some weird start to this game. He might have just done what Caps always does, which is always a big surprise in the duo.
Nice job.
Curse
Slain. It's too bad.
That's so disgusting, man. He's just waiting for me to dash.
Fun. No problem.
That sucks. I might be focusing too much on looking for a 1v1.
Your right tower has been destroyed.
This game is so boring though, I'm not gonna lie. Just the way it's being played is so boring. And Agni is not doing too hot,
too bad.
Fear that I will bring suffering.
but I mean,
For in truth I bring an end to it.
supposedly kind of what I expect when someone picks non-aspect these days. There's just no reason not to go.
Enemies of the fire giant. You rock.
They gotta be on fire. I'll be so yeah, they
The
are.
enemy team has destroyed the fire giant. Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Woof. I might have to dodge a Q in this one.
Please. Please. Be careful. Middle.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyramids. Your middle tower is under attack.
Help!
The enemy team has destroyed the gold fury.
Nice job. Nice job. Nice job.
These dudes love the VGS system.
Nice job. Nice job. Nice job.
Your left tower is under attack.
Oh,
Your middle
Nice
tower
job.
has been
I
your
want a
middle
TP over
tower
there.
is under attack.
Nice job.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed.
Nice job.
On my way.
Have fun.
Your middle phoenix
You
is under
killed
attack.
Okay.
Did he just dash in?
Your middle phoenix has been destroyed.
Okay, man. Go Fortnite on Roblox, man.
Nice job. Time to
I mispressed. Fair.
Okay. Need healing. Need healing. Ultimate is ready. Nice job.
I do think Carly is being a bit of annoying. A bit of an annoying little ass with the BGS spamming and stuff, but I would say that his frustration so far is justified, because this is some interesting stuff happening in this game.
Ultimate is ready. Attack! Your Titan is under attack. On my way. Attack!
We're just not going in.
Nice ult, Apollo. Nice ult.
Do we even have any anti-healing? We do. I'm kind of relying on someone else to do the anti-healing. I don't know what the hell Paul is kind of building though. I don't like any of his items here.
Your Titan is under attack.
Dude, just survive! Oh my god. Nay.
Your Titan is under attack. Cannot be contained. Okay.
Alright. What a game.
Defeat.
A bit, I would mute him, yeah. I don't really care too much about that stuff. People can spam if they want to let out frustration. If it depends on the voice pack, I guess. If it's really annoying to listen to, I tend to mute it, but... Damn, that felt incredibly unbalanced in the matchmaking. In terms of skill level, at least. That was 0 chance. Oddly enough, very often happens when I pick Hades, I feel like. I never get online enough on Hades to carry a game. In recent memory. Maybe that's why I stopped playing Hades. Because my early game isn't good enough to carry the early game. In my lane, at least. Because on Hades, you often just feel like you kind of need... You do need a little bit of items online before you actually start doing something. But then you're really broken. Like, you kind of has that same Aladdin mindset. Except I think Hades is better than Aladdin early. Where, like, if you do get late game, you're going to be broken as hell. But like, can you rely on your team as a solo to get there in time? That's the problem. Often that's a no. Now, we got some decent picks there, like when I was able to really go in fights. Just that last team fight, Apollo was in the air for so long that and he never landed, and then I just went in looking for something, and I just died before he even fucking landed. I don't know what happened there. But I also don't think it mattered at that point. That game was just over. This game called Haste. It is called Haste. I'm really fucking up my momentum in this one. Ow. Damn, I looked over at chat for a second and I got hit. It gives me a sonic itch. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Like the older 3D Sonics. Or I suppose some of them are new. Some of the new ones are also 3D, I guess. I could see it. I haven't played Sonic in a long time. I played it when I was a kid, but I never really went back. It didn't stick with me. I still feel a lot of nostalgia behind it though. And also, I don't hate it. But these types of games are usually only something I would play like during queues, for example. I'm more of like a big just RPG person now. So if I want to, it needs to pay full attention to a game. Like Smite is kind of an exception. I don't really feel like playing online games much anymore, like multiplayer, like team deathmatch type games. So yeah, Smite's kind of the exception there. But like RPGs and single player games is generally just the only thing I play now. And I mean, Smite is probably the exception because it's hard for me to really ever dislike the game, even if I might meme about it at times, just because of the impact that it's had on my life. It is in a bit of a rough state at the moment, though. I mainly think that's because of the player base now. I think the meta is honestly fine. It's not that bad. It's been much worse in like previous patches. Though I do think the shielding is a gigantic problem right now, though. That does make it a bit unenjoyable, actually. Shields are fucking annoying as shit. They're just too broken. And there's too many of them. Like, just in that game we just saw, too. Like, you're literally seeing solo having two, like, mages versus mages. And they just build fucking Bloodbond Book or the Boar, and you have Shell. And suddenly you're unkillable. And you're killing everything. It's boring. Like, shield metas are just boring. Like, I think that's the main issue, because like, shields should be there, I guess. Like, they've always been there too. But there's so many fucking shields now, and they're so powerful. Like an 800 to like 900 shield or whatever you can get late game as a mage because of the in scaling on Bloodbound Book is fucking insane. Dude, you're never dying. It fucking sucks. It's so stupid to deal with. And I actually can't believe it hasn't been nerfed yet. Not even just Bloodbound Book, but like Shell too. Yeah, I mean erosion, but I don't what they like. What do they expect erosion to do? You know, like it's 30% of a like. I mean, as an example, of a 900 shield isn't really that huge late game. You know. Oh, great. So the mage still has a 500 shield. Like in the first place, it should never be that high. Surely. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but like it's just Bloodbound Book is just a good fucking item. Yeah, Shield Splitter isn't worth it anymore. But that's because they're like Shield Splitter was originally broken because of a completely different reason unrelated to its original purpose, which is just removing shields, as in it's the fucking name too. But you built it because it had a low cooldown, like high damaging effect to it. That was the only reason you would build it. It wasn't because of shielding or anti-shielding or anything like that. So far, that item has been complete dogshit in every situation when it comes to shields. I just don't like the reliance on shields. I think it makes the game just overall more unfun. There's a reason why Smite 1 never felt good in shield metas. And they nerfed that shit so fast. Because it wasn't fucking fun. It just feels like we're not learning from the mistakes that have been made in the past. Which ends up feeling really bad. Right. What am I picking this time, though? I don't think I want to do Hades again. Like, I kind of want to play Hades, but that felt so unfun to play.
Select your god.
Do I just go back to the Apollo? I think so. At least this way I have something that's good early. I think the Apollo overall does get a bit weaker late game, just because, you know, stacking HP doesn't really mean you're taking less damage. Necessarily. But I don't think it's bad by any means. I do think it is pretty good throughout all stages of the game. Yeah, I like the Apollo aspect quite a bit. I think it is a lot of fun. I've just played it a lot since it came out, and I don't want to burn out on Apollo. But I also really do want to get a Radiant. So I'm torn. But like getting a God Radiant and then never touching it again just also feels kind of bad. That's what I've done with a few of my gods. Giannis, yeah. Dude, what? Damn. I actually forgot about Giannis completely. I want him too. He was one of my favorite mages to play. He's so much fun. But he's also annoying as shit. Because the portals are just something that makes the game... Excuse me. I don't know. The portals I feel like needs to be nerfed in range. Because that always bother the absolute living shit out of me in Smite 1. You can go way too far with these portals. And I'm not talking about the ultimate, just the range of the portal itself. That shit goes so far, like... It went further than any other, like, escapability in the game. Maybe not counting, like, Heimdall.
Yes.
Alright. Let's see what we got. This smells like a beach game for sure.
Yeah.
Their comp
Yeah.
seems to be very beats focused.
Yes. Hit the dirt.
What am I against? Serp or... Yeah, I mean, I guess Serp or Athena. Probably Serp. Should be easy enough either way. I don't really think I lose any of those matchups.
Yeah. Yes.
How you doing?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Whoa.
So they're gonna change Horror's ult a bit? Yeah. I think that's fair, because they kind of just made Apollo's, like, ult now a better version of Horror's ult. Except that you can't carry all 5. Or all 4 teammates. But, like, you can essentially carry, you know, up to 3 people, which is... I would still say, like, better, because it's just faster. I don't know, maybe it's not that much better, I suppose. I think Horror's ult is probably still better, honestly.
Yo, thanks.
Depending on how far you need to go. They're still different enough that I would be fine if Horror still made it into the game, but having both of those ultimates on the same team would be an absolute fucking nightmare to deal with, so... Maybe that's why they changed it, I don't know.
Yo, enemies have returned to base.
Because you could have an Apollo and a Horus, and whenever Giannis comes out as well, you could also have a Giannis.
On
You
my
just
way.
gotta
Stay
take
here.
it one game at a time.
Sorry.
Stay here.
Oops.
Hey, better luck next time.
There will be no fun.
And then no longer do you have any control over the map at all. Because you just have the rotations of all time.
Knock it out.
Yo, thanks.
And it's Athena.
Completed. Completed.
Battle ready.
It's a little shell. Damn, if I hit level 2, I get that kill.
Set up an ambush here. Be careful. Yes. Enemy missing middle.
Stand with me. And don't give up.
It's definitely not going to be that fun of a matchup for him. I have 2 ways to interrupt his dash. So I can just delay him a lot. It's general better to clear brutes or archers first. Depends on the matchup and whatever you're playing. You know, like gods excel at different things, you know. Damn, missed my one. Wouldn't have killed, but
Be
still.
right back. Enemies incoming.
Always some good poke.
Okay.
Might be fast enough to catch up here for my one.
Your left tower is under attack.
He healed too much. Pot diff.
On my way. Okay. Be careful. Ally has been slain. Out of the park. I've slain an enemy.
I believe in you.
Be careful. Enemies in the right jungle. I need the jungle block.
I think I'm good.
I need the jungle block. That's completed.
Right, I'm gonna wait this out.
Set up an ambush.
Enemy
here.
spotted.
Like on Apollo as an example, because I'm ranged and I don't instantly take damage from just like melee, like if you can hit essentially both creeps and your enemy at the same time, you generally should. Because you're just getting that poke as well as the wave clear. And if you end up getting the wave before them, you know, then you just go all in, you know, if you're winning the trades anyway. Which is essentially how I'm playing the Apollo. You just keep poking them with the one. Because I know Athena can't fight me anyway. So I want to make sure that she gets super poked, and then I can always just dash her if I end up in a position where it's, you know, it fits. Like, I'm going a bit overboard on it in this one, because I know Athena just cannot fight early. Athena's not a good early fighter. She barely does any damage. So I'm going very overboard.
Enemies in the left jungle.
Time to take action.
Enemy missing. Jungle buff, bro. Yo, enemies in return to base. Yo, enemies in return to base.
Enemy ultimate incoming. And don't give up.
Like, I'm not really afraid of the Athena here, so I'm just gonna do all I can to go for the kills.
Okay. Enemies in middle lane. Careful. Attack.
Enemy
The burst is
ultimate
just extra
incoming.
crazy because I'm over leveled compared to her, as well as just early base damage, like the rank 4 and the rank 5,
Middle lane.
will definitely shred. Just because the base damage is king early.
Spotted. Spotted. Out of mana. Sorry, bruh.
It's not really good. Don't want to just dive him.
An ambush here.
Very high chance that's not gonna end up being worth it.
Attack. Yo, I'm on my way.
Enemy ultimate incoming! Retreat!
Enemy missing
Attack.
left.
Ultimate is ready. What's up?
Enemy missing.
Okay.
Missing left. My domain. Missing left. There's no running away. All I need.
Retreat!
Just look at me.
Does some good damage back. Just gotta chill. Chill a little bit.
I mean, just look at
Shell is very good, yeah. It's been unfortunate. I don't think a shell by itself is the most insane thing. It's when shields start stacking upon shields that's the problem. Like right there, I think that's fair. But when you have like then Apollo 2, if I had shell in this game, I went my 2 has a shield. Like Bloodbound Book and shit like that has shields. Athena ult ends up having a shield, you know, like everyone has shields. That's just too fucking many shields. A single one by itself is really not the issue. I don't even know where Anubis went. I was looking for him specifically.
Wait a minute.
Yo, I'm on my way.
Oh, we got tower. Well done, creeps. Athena was just rotating for a long time there. While I was still getting some XP.
Enemies at the gold
Your
fury.
left tower is under attack.
I think Bloodforge is under bot. I think the problem with Bloodforge is that generally strength just isn't as valuable as intelligence right now. So it feels weird to buy it, but I kind of agree.
Enemy spotted.
Okay. Yo, I'm on my way.
But like, another example would be like Hexstone, right? Buying Hexstone on a mage, you still feel like you're doing a shit ton of damage.
Jungle.
But if you do that on an assassin, it feels like you're doing a lot less damage. You know? Like, I think that's a part of it.
Hey, be careful, left.
Like, missing out on a full-on item as a mage just doesn't
Your
feel
middle
as
tower
punishing.
is under attack.
Enemy ultimate incoming!
Poked her a little bit at least, but I'm not really in a position to
Enemy missing left.
help out here.
Your middle tower is under attack. What a shame. Enemy has been slain. Knock it out.
Don't know if we had plug, but
There's no one time to take
Careful. I'll attack left.
I want it back. Actually, no, I don't want it back.
Yo, I'm on my way. Yo, I'm on my way.
I'm gonna wait backing until I can finish.
Slain.
Maybe 2 items. Nah. Maybe that's agree. Maybe it isn't. We'll see. Probably just back, honestly, when my TP's back up. So in 20 seconds. Who's doing these? If Athena is not here, huh?
I'm returning to base.
Help! Help!
I'm on it. Enemies in the left jungle. Defend the gold fury. I'm on my way.
We need wards!
Cancel that.
I gotta save my health for when Athena ults.
Enemy missing.
Because twice now she's ulted and I wasn't able to follow.
Enemy spotted. Attack.
Wait a minute.
Enemies in right lane. Attack the gold fury. Enemies in right lane.
Okay.
Attack. Enemies in left lane. Enemy over. Time to take action. Woo! They won't let you down.
Nice.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. And the rain shall wash them away.
Enemies incoming. Retreat.
Completed.
Alright, that's fine.
Sup, bro? Set up an ambush.
She either missed it and was going for the Cerberus and then hit him instead, or yeah, she thought I was going on Anubis.
I'll attack middle.
There is a small chance that Anubis might have just been in the way when she was trying to ult the Cerberus.
Your middle tower is under attack. Be careful.
Yo, I'm on my way. Sup,
I saw the Nemesis though, I did not expect Anubis there. Which is why I still went for blue. I actually feel like I should have died. If Anubis insta-ulted me, I couldn't ult away. Because I'm not gonna ult if Anubis is fucking ulting me. It's a terrible idea. So I'm actually surprised that I even survived.
Ally has been slain.
I'm gonna TP and defend left, I think. Don't want to end up losing a tower.
Enemies in left lane.
I'll defend. Yo, I'm on my way.
Your left tower is under attack.
This tower is so cooked.
Settle this with style. My style.
Your right tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Enemy spotted.
What
Enemy
a
spotted.
shame.
One strike is
Well.
all I need.
This is tragic and Hercules is dying in mid while... Oh my fucking god, man. Why is Herc not rotating for this? I would go Aerosbow if I thought I could trust someone on this team, but I think I'm actually just gonna refrain from going Aerosbow.
I'll gank.
On my way.
Oh, I thought they were on red since you said that.
Enemy missing. Enemy spotted.
On my way.
Ultimate is ready. An enemy has been slain. Wash them away.
Yeah, Contagion definitely could be good.
Enemies behind us.
Just compared to the other items that I want, I'm not sure I want. Or I can fit it in, I should say.
Bye.
Enemy within run. Okay. Sup, bro?
Because I probably do need some damage this game. Which is also why I'm just going shifters now.
Enemy spotted.
But I think that's going to be the only damage item I can really go with.
Retreat. Yeah.
Bye.
Just that again. He needs to either ward or stop going so far.
He's the wrong team, I am sorry.
My dude's dying a bit too much.
On my
We're
way.
also dying a bit.
Hasta la vista, amigo. Your middle tower is under attack. Ultimate is down. Your middle tower is under attack. I'll attack middle lane.
Yo, thanks.
Nice blink.
Judgment is my domain.
And he runs away from me, man.
Away.
Wash them away!
Enemies have returned to base.
Could have shielded him if he just ran to me.
Ultimate is down.
Enemy spotted.
Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Gank.
Be careful.
Enemy missing left.
Kinda beats. I gotta be careful.
Ultimate is
Without
ready.
my ult up
Luck
too.
next time.
Herc is really far behind, man.
Your
Yes, oh,
team
it's
has
crit.
destroyed a left enemy tower.
Ward here.
Your right tower is under attack.
Why is my Herc building crit? It's like some zero, like season, like 0-1 type shit.
Enemies in left lane.
Gank left lane.
Enemy ult.
Poor Medusa is kind of just gonna camp though.
Attack
But I mean,
middle
who else
lane.
is like she really supposed to gank? It's not gonna be me.
Hey, be right back.
And the Zeus being, oh, okay, this is looking kind of tasty.
Sorry.
Ally has been slain.
My style.
I'm lucky, I guess correct. That is in fact where he was.
What a shame.
I might actually need anti-healing just for Anubis, because I want to focus him because of me having Nemean, but he actually just heals more than my Nemean does damage to him. Because he has Typhons as well. Fuck, man. Do I really need... I might need Antical Brawlers, maybe? Shit. I don't know what anti-healing item would even be good on Apollo. What the aspect? Arden's probably gonna look to gank me if she's still in right. Even Artemis is running this fucking Hexstone bullshit.
On my way. I'll gank.
Enemy missing right. Retreat. Attack. Enemy ultimate incoming. Ultimate is down. Retreat.
Oh, I need to just back in TP mid, I guess. Like what anti-healing do I want or need? Let's just start by buying this. Fuck. Fine. Contagion this.
Tower is under attack.
No.
I guess we ended up with Contagion anyway. Though I guess Contagion doesn't really do what I want, because I have to press the active for this.
Oh, you move like a jaguar. Ooh.
Enemies incoming.
Your team has destroyed the Pyromancer. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Attack.
Ally has been slain. You are fabuloso. Oh, my horrific. Shut down. Yes.
I'll defend the Gold Fury.
Yeah, I think you're correct, Pablo. Because I also don't really think I should have gone Contagion here. The second I bought it, I kind of regretted it. Because I very much just need the on-hit anti-healing. But too late now. I'll swap it out later if I get the chance, but at this point it is simply just too late.
Enemy missing. Ward here. Careful. Out of the park.
Enemy spotted.
For now, I just need to finish Bluestone as well. It's gonna help my damage output quite well.
Hey, wait a minute.
Coming left. Enemies incoming right. Attack the Gold Fury. Enemies in right lane.
On my way.
Attack.
Big X.
Enemies in right lane. Scales.
Defend the fire giant.
This is a fire giant. I'll defend.
On my way.
Your
No
team has
problem.
destroyed the
Attack
Gold
fire
Fury.
giant. Defend.
Made it long enough at least. Should be safe.
Okay.
Attack. Attack. Attack.
I won't let you down. Judgment is my domain. One strike is all I need.
Enemy has been slain.
Your middle tower is under attack.
We do have Sobek for the anti-healing here. Maybe we can do something with that.
For me. Judgment is my domain. Healing right back.
On my way.
Nowhere to hide.
Ooh, I'm begging! I'm bopping and weaving! I'm bopping and weaving, boys!
Your left tower is under attack.
Need healing. Enemy ultimate incoming. Need healing.
What I should have gone with, now that I remember that it exists, is Lenient Bow. That's the item I could have gone with. I also miss Toxic Blade, you're actually true. So true. That item is goated.
Battle ready. And don't give up.
Destroyed the fire giant.
Dude, I was really just trying to keep her missed. But it's not something I can just communicate to my team. It's like, don't attack Hellmesser! Please. Thank fuck we got that.
Your middle tower is under attack.
I think the only nice part about the Contagion passive is the slight cooldown reduction you get. I do think that's nice, and I do think it fits Apollo quite well.
Woohoo.
This aspect specifically. Let's get more cooldown. Gotta hit 10. Might as well just stick around, honestly, so I can finish my stuff.
Hey, better luck next time.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Yo, I'm on my way.
Okay.
Attack left lane.
Follow me.
Follow me.
Dude, no! Medusa! Aw.
Enemy ultimate down.
Enemy spotted.
Chase the enemy.
Enemies in left lane.
He should be dead no matter what here. We're really just pluck him in and out. Oh my god. It's fine. It worked out.
Destroy the left enemy tower.
Attack left lane.
Get the Phoenix! Please! We got it!
Destroy the left enemy Phoenix.
Wash them away! Attack middle lane!
Your middle tower is under attack.
Hey, guys, you there. You guys.
Newbies just keep stunning me. He's trying to hit the fucking Phoenixes. Stop! Go away, man.
Enemy Phoenix.
Didn't contagion him, but that's, he wasn't really hitting me in the beginning.
My domain. Nowhere to hide. Just need to do.
Safe. Yeah, he is standing in it.
Excellent game. Bye.
Zeus ended up doing a lot of damage.
Victory.
Fantastic, bro.
Damn. That last team fight where Zephyrus was just standing in his ult is what gave him the top damage. Tragic. My hard work. All that matters is top damage, boys. No, that was good. Kind of just brings me back to what I said before, though. Like, if I don't completely crush my lane, I feel like I have such a low chance of actually winning these games. I have to pick something that's good early. So I can gain a lead that way. Okay, second ban this time. What am I even supposed to ban? I want to ban Afro. I always want to ban Afro. But I also don't want to give Aladdin away. Well, that kind of fixes it. I'll ban the Bari instead. Who is this Anubis player? I forgot to check who it was last game. I already forgot.
Select
But someone
your
definitely likes the
god.
Anubis in these games. Still an Afro game. Oops, I forgot where I was in this game. I'm going too fast. I can't turn fast enough. No. Ow. A lot of Nemesis today as well, surprisingly. I'm saying a lot. I played 2 games, but still. Anubis and Nemesis, big MVPs in terms of picks today, apparently. This looks like it might be an Anubis solo game, though. Into me. Wait, no. Nim? It's gotta be Hunbots or Nim, actually. I'm okay with that. Melee should be pretty easy enough to deal with as Afro. I think Anubis probably would be my hardest matchup on that team. One missed stun, and I'm just gonna take a shit ton of poke. Is this a Beats or an Aegis game, though? Because I'm kind of leaning more towards Aegis. Bot's ult is really scary. But I have my ult if I really need to. With the amount of damage output they have with Cupid ults and Anubis ult and Nemesis, I feel like Aegis might just be better. It's either between that or Shell. I'll do Aegis. I'm a sucker for Aegis at the moment, I don't know why. I need it in my veins.
Oh my god. Love it.
Love it. Oh, it's that Dutch guy. Who the hell? Okay, so I'm against Nemesis. Alright. The Nim. Might be the first game in a while that I haven't seen Apollo just being picked. Partly because I always play a lot myself.
Enemy missing middle.
It is an aspect bots now that I'm looking at it though. Maybe I should have gone Beats.
Minions have spawned.
But even then, it's too much CC anyway. Can't play the game. Like even if I Beats it, I might be dead anyway. And I'll probably just be wasting beads because it's gonna take fucking 5 seconds for his dude to get back up. Stun me again.
One strike is all I need.
It's in fact warriors.
Be careful.
Ha! Back off. Judgment is my domain. Bow to me. Or don't. Either way, you'll still be lying at my feet.
Let's fall into the breach. No problem.
Enemy missing left.
Balance is overrated. Let me tip the scale.
Enemy has been slain. Attack!
Let's settle. There's no running from me.
Let's
My
fall into the
style.
breach.
Judgment is my domain. One strike is all I need.
Hasta la vista, amigo.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Some easy beats.
Balance is overrated. Let me tip the scales.
Close. If I just wasn't out of mana.
Let's settle this with style. My style. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
I think I should be fine.
Judgment is my domain.
See if he dives.
On my way.
Unfortunate, I was hoping.
Ultimate is ready.
My
Enemy spot.
gods, that was close.
It wasn't close, Aphrodite. Don't lie to yourself. We had ages.
That was a horrific shame.
Enemy missing left. My
Your left tower is under attack.
Oh, great. I heard my buff already go down, meaning he's definitely not alone on it.
The rain shall wash them away.
on my way.
Trespassers! I say that was a horrific shame. Out of mana.
That's too bad.
That sucks.
Yes.
Completed.
Attack!
Lost my blue though, which really sucks.
Your left tower.
Kinda need it if I want to spam abilities. Just means I need the Warhorn.
Be careful, middle.
Judgment is my domain. There's no running from me.
Right.
Enemy missing middle.
Enemy has
Settle
been
this
slain.
with style. My style.
Come, my son.
It's lights out for you.
Get away.
Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
Enemy missing middle.
Leave me alone. Love.
There's no running from me. I'll be
Nice
back.
job.
Fix this mess.
Thanks.
On my way.
Back
Be
off.
careful.
Not really much he can do when I have the double immunity.
Bye.
Enemy missing.
I was kind of just gambling on the fact that
Don't worry
hopefully the
about
jungler isn't coming. Because then I would have been dead 100%.
it. Be right back.
Yes.
The rain shall wash them away.
Looks like it's going well overall here.
Strong. Oh, you move like a jaguar.
We have doubled a dash already, eh?
Be careful.
Balance is overrated. Let me tip
Enemy
the
missing
scales.
middle.
One strike is all I
On my
need.
way.
There's no running
Follow
from
me.
me.
Ultimate is down.
My style. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
Well, that is so unfortunate. I didn't... Oh, whatever. That sucks, man. I guess I fucked up. I was just baiting before. I need cooldown, though. I feel so absolutely miserable waiting for cooldowns.
Be careful. Enemy spotted. Okay, once more into the breach.
We just lost both buffs again, too.
Your left tower.
Just to add salt to the wound.
Enemy ultimate down. I say that was a horrific shame.
I'll attack middle lane.
Alright, I guess I'm staying more safe. Because now I am suddenly behind. Get solo kill, get ganked, fall behind. Beautiful chain of events. Love to see it.
Nowhere to run. Judgment. My domain. Nice. Congratulations. Jokes. And I'm bored already. There's no running for me.
Enemy missing right.
The fucking ADC is here, man. Alright, now I'm actually serious. Before I was like, alright, I'm still gonna play aggressive. Fuck no, now I'm gonna chill. If the fucking ADC is ganking me? Yeah, the shirt's coming off, alright? Well, not the shirt. The hoodie.
Double kill. Oh, you move like a jackal.
Fucking hell, I'm sitting under my fucking tower then. I actually kill him there if I have obsidian, not obsidian. Crossband. I just don't have the cooldown to fight, like, stretched out fights right now.
Ally has been slain.
Damn, we're really feeling the Anubis now.
An enemy has been slain. Very strong. Oh, my horrific.
Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower.
Definitely gonna
is
have to go
under
divine
attack.
on my end as well.
Get away. Enemy missing left. Come, my dogs.
Your right tower is under attack.
Back off.
Ultimate is ready.
Gank left lane.
Treat middle lane.
Leave me alone. Enemies have
Onslaught
returned
into
to
the
base.
breach. Onslaught into the breach.
On my way.
The rain shall wash them away. Enemy ultimate down.
The Pyromancer has arrived.
I don't know why Nem backed, but I mean, it's very good that she did. The fact that Nem wasn't rotating on this fight
There's no
Your middle tower
made
is
it
under attack.
actually
Be
winnable.
careful.
Come, my dogs.
Cupid bits.
Enemy missing left.
Ultimate is down.
Let's finally get this shit. Question is, do I have to buy Bloodbound before I go with
Falling back.
Divine? Probably need to go Divine first.
Be right back. Be careful.
Enemy spotted.
Ultimate is down.
There's no running for me. Always solve my domain.
Enemy team has destroyed the pyramids.
I think I got him. Yeah. That's good. He did more damage than I thought. And that's probably because he has... No, I thought he had crit, but I guess it's just... What is this build? Why am I losing? Fuck. Oh, shit, like I missed. That's so unfortunate. Straight up fight diff.
Hasta la vista, amigo. Oh, they hit like a baby. An enemy has been slain.
Let's still win it. Well done.
Enemy missing left. Be careful middle.
You are fabuloso.
Huge.
Oh, you move like a
Huge.
This club is packed!
The rain shall wash them away. Thanks.
Let's settle this with style. My style. Get away.
I've been playing this pretty rough so
Enemy
far.
spotted.
I gotta
Ultimate is
be way
ready.
more careful.
Attack!
Be
I
careful.
really don't think I should be dying
I'm
ever in a
going to
1v1
jungle.
against this
Back off.
in front of my own tower.
Enemy missing left.
Enemy ultimate down.
Nice job.
Nowhere to run.
Get away.
Enemy missing.
Enemy
Middle.
has
Be
been
careful,
slain.
right?
Peace.
Help! Help!
Leave me alone.
Ally has been
Okay.
slain. Enemy ultimate down. Attack!
Enemy spot.
Follow me.
On my way.
Complete.
Unfortunate.
Enemy spot. The Pyromancer has arrived. Enemies in the left jungle. Be careful.
Your left tower is under attack.
Enemy missing middle.
Leave me alone.
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
Ultimate is ready.
Help!
On my way. Get away.
You got thunderstruck.
Should be good. Surely, at least one.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
Retreat.
maybe.
On my way.
Retreat.
That sucks.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Maybe I can get tower then. Who's doing all these buffs, man? I feel like Nemesis hasn't been there for a year.
Leave me alone.
Enemy missing right.
Your team has
now it's
destroyed
bombed.
a left enemy.
Hasta la vista, amigo.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
Back
Retreat.
off. My dodge.
Judgment is my domain.
Your middle tower is under attack.
One strike is all I need.
Love. My dodge.
Injustice.
Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under
Didn't
attack.
realize my second 3 actually hit, but
Attack middle
glad it did.
ultimate is ready.
My back off.
Enemies have returned to base.
right. spotted! Attack!
On my way.
Enemy missing left. Be careful right. Come, my doves.
The rain shall wash them away! Shut down! Jeez! An enemy has been slain!
Ultimate is ready. Attack the Gold Fury.
Oh, you one of those Serato users.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Back off.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Your middle tower is under attack.
Be careful, middle! Be right back!
Enemies have returned middle.
Be careful, right away!
Once more into the breach.
The rain shall wash them away!
Enemy spotted.
Be careful.
Ultimate is ready!
No problem.
Back off.
Damn it. Ah, man. I don't know what Fenrir just did though. Unfortunate. Oh, nope. Show. On a kind of wrecking them though.
Right tower
Damn.
is under attack.
I believe Anubis.
Your right tower is under attack.
Because he should have been dead. I probably took a lot of tower damage as well, I would imagine. Just can't fucking see it for some reason.
Be careful.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
No! Oh, that was the window.
Come, my doves. Hello. Enemy missing left.
Enemy missing.
Come,
Be
my
careful.
doves. Back off. Be careful, middle. Enemies incoming.
Enemy has been slain!
I mean, Nem just isn't in lane anymore either.
Enemy spotted.
My horrific!
Ultimate is down.
Attack the Gold Fury! Enemies have returned to base!
Yes. Once more into the
Ultimate
breach.
is down.
It's a dash. Let's see if I can yoink him real fast.
Come, my doves.
That's so tragic.
Enemy
Your
ultimate
team
down.
has destroyed the Gold Fury.
His ult healed him enough.
Enemy missing.
I think I do need this for defense. Despite me having somewhat low power with a Chronos Pendant as well. It's not that low power, but I could be missing out on it's just like
Careful back.
30 to 50-ish extra power if I had an
Be
actual
careful.
power item.
Hello.
Retreat! No problem. Retreat!
Enemy missing left.
At the fire giant. Enemies at the fire giant.
Attack!
Ultimate is ready.
Attack!
On my way.
For catching me. He's done.
Race shall wash them away!
What do I look like?
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed.
Enemy has been slain.
Back off.
Your team has destroyed the pyramids. Once more into
Set
the
up an
breach.
ambush here. Set
Ultimate
up an
is
ambush
down.
here.
If they come in, just kill them.
Yes.
Enemy spot.
Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the fire giant. Your left tower has been destroyed.
Attack.
Attack
Chase the
left
enemy.
leg.
Once more into the breach.
Enemy spot. Enemies have returned to base. Enemies have
That's too
returned to
bad.
base.
An unfortunate mistake.
Hello.
Fortunately, we lost tier 2, but I mean, obviously getting fire is never a bad thing.
I won't let you play that train wreck.
I'm not 20, that's absolutely criminal. How?
Back off.
Wow. Let's get this first. I think I want this just for survivability, man. Just for some survivability. Because if they actually all in on me, I have
I'm
nothing.
going for jungle bow.
I need
Careful.
something else. In that case, a 500 shield might not help much, but I would rather go for more damage here than I would go for something like a Hexstone. Even if
Your
Hexstone would
right
definitely be better
tower
for
is under
survivability.
attack. Enemy missing.
Enemies in left lane.
Attack right lane!
Destroy the right enemy tower.
And left lane!
Bro, come on.
Your left Phoenix is under attack.
Don't fight.
Be careful.
Definitely felt more like a support effort in this one. Just trying to make sure that I was supporting the correct target, but did some decent damage overall, probably still. No, I did not. Damn. I guess it was just because I wasn't really fighting in lane. But oof. It's weird how we suddenly just ran away with the lead, though. This game felt like it was incredibly close until a single team fight, I guess. But I guess that happens a lot. Somehow we controlled it. Though with that Cupid, I suppose that explains all of it. We've just had an ADC doing a lot more damage. So many of these cards. Maybe I do a motor game. Or maybe I actually do a Guan Yu game. At some point, I still want to do some more Guan Yu. I just don't know if the current meta is where I want to do it. At the same time, I mean, he probably is better into non-tanks, I would say. He probably loses lane somewhat easily early on to tanks. Maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. I don't play Guan. I want to enjoy him though. So far, that's just not been the case. Today's stream is somewhat short as well. I only tweeted that out on Twitter, but I just wanted to play a little bit. So this might be the last game. We'll see. If it's a short and like 10-minute surrender, incredibly unsatisfying game, then yeah, okay, I might play another one. But I was really in the mood to do a little bit of smiting. I kind of feel like playing Raw, but I want to do that full mage. Full mage Raw solo is gonna be fucking rough. If I get mid, I'll do that. maybe I could get away with doing a Hexstone. It just doesn't feel as good on Ra. On Ra, I feel like if you don't have enough damage to like nearly one-shot people with snipes, I feel like it's just not really worth playing. Not to mention that's what I want to do. So going Hexstone would defeat that purpose. But maybe. Also depends on who I'm against. And what I'm against. Ain't no way I can ever go full damage if I'm against Fenrir. I have a lot of healing this run. Well, realistically, I would like some more speed. Somehow, I'm just not getting any good drops. Alright, what do we got? Second pick. Kali gotta go. Probably gonna ban the Afro as well. Ain't no way I want to deal with this fucking god. But at the same time, every time I let Bari go through, she just shits on everyone, so... Bari is such a weird god for me, because I feel like she would not be that good in competitive. But in ranked, it's so easy for her to just shit on everyone. Because she has such high base damage. Or not base damage, it's pretty high ability damage.
Your god.
Yeah... There's a lot of shit open. I mean, I feel like doing it, so fuck it. Riders. If I do meet something terrible to deal with, I'll just have to go for something defensive early. I should be alright. At least my lane is safe. And I should be able to get early clear in most cases. My neighbor upstairs has kids over. They're just fucking jumping. It's fucking annoying. You can just feel it. I don't even necessarily hear it. I just feel it in my whole apartment. But at least I don't visit that often. I'll allow it once or twice. Looks like I'm against Mulan. It seems. Should be alright. It's a bit rough early, I actually think. Once she has her 3, I do need to be careful. Mulan is unironically still good into something that has no mobility at all. This kind of smells more like it. I don't know, actually. I think I might need... Fuck, man, I hate this. Because not having Aegis into Vulcan and potentially Isa with their ults is really, really annoying. But realistically getting... yeah, whatever. It is interesting with the aspect versus non-aspect Apollo. Because I really truly do think that in most cases... or like in 95% of cases, aspect is just better even in ADC. Like, you don't rely on your 1 for damage, like late game as Apollo anyway. Like, just you might as well go for the heavy early game that it does bring to the table. And just be there for autos for late game. You still have your mess, and that mess only becomes better with the aspect. And that's arguably your best ability going into late game. For survivability. I really just don't think there's any reason not to go aspect, even if you're playing ADC.
How are you?
I can show you a few tricks. But the punchline might kill you. Some try to hide, others to cheat. But time will show we'll always meet.
The heat bears down upon you. The heat bears down upon you.
Like, obviously it sucks mainly losing Audacity for early game. But I think spamming the 1 for damage is just generally better. Not to mention for wave clear too.
The heat bears down upon
That being said, he obviously probably does not run Bluestone, which is not ideal.
Enemy mixing middle.
For the aspect anyway, but I don't know. I would still argue that it's better. Overall, it doesn't make that big of a difference, right? Like, they have Isa Bacchus as well, so they have good aggression with Bacchus with the jumps, and then Isa for the wave clear, so like either way they're probably gonna lose the early game. Mage is good in solo again. I mean, they never really left, if you're talking about stuff like Hades. If you mean Ra, then no. I'm just playing it because I want to. Tanks are arguably still just better. In the majority of cases, at least.
enemies in the left lane.
Okay. I'll take right lane.
What are these drops? There's some weird lags in this game. Dude, I guess it's because of Morrigan. Maybe the— oh my god, it's real bad. There's also a chance that it's haste, actually. Let me just close haste and see if that's the case. Sometimes it has been doing that for some reason. Yeah, it might have just been haste.
An enemy has been slain.
They need me.
Nice job.
Nice job. Rai's so supportive.
That's too bad.
What a nice bird. Like, it's obviously hard to say specifically because there's no competitive, but in terms of best soul laners, I'll still argue like Kebrakian, Hades, maybe Mordred, like if it's on competitive, but like in ranked, I mean, it doesn't matter, let's be real. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. So no one truly knows, I guess. Apollo is quite OP. Yeah, Apollo is kind of broken. Aspect only. Not so much non-aspect. Non-aspect Apollo is just okay. Aspect Apollo is borderline broken.
A hot item.
I'm returning to base.
I wouldn't say he's definitely ban worthy, but because there's so many bans, or we don't have enough bans,
Unlucky.
and there's just too many fucking gods to ban. So much OP shit. Even if he was available, he probably still wouldn't be banned, because there's still that many insane other picks. Like Aladdin, Kali, sometimes Sobek. Fuck, I'm blanking on so many of them. Aphrodite, Hades, so on, like and so forth.
Down upon you.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, Bari, Agni, definitely up there too. There's just too much. Like, you could probably easily count to like 8 or 10. Like, between 8 and 10 gods that are something you would
Jungler's
ban every
coming in
game
me.
if you wanted to, or if you could.
Be careful.
But that's just too much. The general most bans, like most banned gods, are I feel like Afro, Aladdin, and Kali are the ones that I feel like are generally out of the game. Oh, interesting. My 2 inability state does not remove
On my way.
anything. Flag.
Difficulties. They're merely the highest.
Just gotta poke a bit more, wait for my ult to be back up, look for the snipe.
Your team has destroyed the
Easy enough, right?
Down upon you.
Enemy missing. Cancel that.
Tragic.
Out of mana.
Okay. Difficulties. They're merely the highest.
I was hoping for a psychological thing where... Well, that works. I was hoping for a psychological thing where he would go backwards and not forward.
Your middle tower is under attack.
That was fucking Morgan there. Well, that's kind of scary for a bit. Glad she didn't do anything.
Your right tower is under attack.
Down upon you.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy missing. Enemy spotted.
I wish I knew how to Bari. You can practice it. I don't think she's that hard to play. She's pretty simple on the surface. I think hard to master maybe, but I think Bari is pretty simple. You can definitely play it on a very like high level, somewhat fast. Just comparatively speaking to so many other gods. The main thing you gotta learn on Bari is like when your stuff resets, you know? Just keeping track of all the ability resets. But like once you played enough, that just becomes muscle memory. No gods scare me. Yeah, maybe if you play arena, then go for it. Obviously, we all feel different about things, but if it's just arena, I think you'll be alright.
Enemy spotted.
The rain shall wash them away.
No, I backed at a bad time.
No.
Man,
I threw
do I just
acid
wait?
to the
I'm
hand.
waiting. Alright, I'm smacking up my feet. I'm waiting.
Enemy spotted.
I don't think I miss anything anyway with TP. That should be good.
Enemies in left lane.
Don't even care my arena anymore. It's true, it's very important. Everyone cares about that.
Be right back.
Your left tower is under attack.
Enemy missing left.
That was a Bacchus there. Huge. Should be dead. Surely.
Enemy has been slain.
Admitting her mistake. A queen is not above
Was that a
admitting
Bacchus?
her
Was it
mistake.
actually Bacchus? Yeah, I think so. It's Dutch. It's definitely Bacchus.
Your left tower is under attack.
For a moment I was thinking maybe it was actually the Morrigan, but nay. It do be the Bacchus. I also don't know if he was the one tanking the tower. He might have been. Maybe I should have focused him instead on my ult.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right
Do
tower
not think it would
is
have made a
under
difference though.
attack.
Be careful!
Enemy ultimate down! Be right back.
Sadly, that does bring the XP difference back to 0. Now we're just even again. Bye bye lead, because he got the kill.
That wasn't
Your
funny.
right tower is under attack.
I'll defend middle lane.
Bathe in the glow.
That's too bad.
Ultimate is down.
Vista, amigo.
That's unfortunate.
Ally has been slain. Oh, you move like a jaguar. They hit like a plane.
They're merely the hive's challenge.
Bathe in the glow.
Your right tower is under attack.
Bear down upon you.
I'm so ready for Bacchus to gank me again. Gotta take the risk though. They're probably just on gold. I'll grab tower.
Down upon you.
Or not. That's fine though. At least it's low now.
Enemy ultimate down!
Oh my god.
In the left lane.
Fucking twice Bacchus has been here now.
Your left tower is under attack.
On my way.
Alright, I mean I guess that kinda settles it. I'm gonna need Hexstone.
Your left tower is under attack.
Vista, amigo. Bear down upon you.
He's getting so roasted in ADC.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Bro, I don't want to steal the kills. Unlucky.
It's fine, bro.
Your right tower has been destroyed. The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Your right tower is under attack.
The heat bears down upon you.
Attack middle lane.
Bathe in the glow.
Fucking Bacchus is the same level as me.
The heat bears down upon you. Bathe in the glow.
Be careful.
Be careful, right?
Get him.
Bathe in the rain. Wash them away.
Follow me.
left. Your left tower is down upon you. Enemy has been slain.
Doesn't do that much damage to me anymore, at least.
The heat bears down upon you. Enemy ultimate down! The glow. The glow. The heat bears down upon you. Your middle tower is under attack. The rain shall wash them away. The heat bears down upon you. The glow.
Surprised Bacchus doesn't come back in a while. Where are you, Dutch? Huh? You might have forgotten about me.
On my way.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Oh, I don't want to steal, bro. It's always the last hit. Why?
Enemy has been slain.
Sorry, bro.
Ultimate is down. Be careful.
The glow. The glow.
Full late game, I might end up selling my stuff here, but my Hex Stone. Because I really do want to just go for the full damage, like big snipes. But I think it just depends on what really happens in these team fights. If I just get focused to shit by Bacchus, I don't think I can afford to not have Hex Stone. Unfortunately.
The glow. The rain shall wash them away. Enemy missing left. Enemies incoming middle. The glow. The glow.
Be careful, right?
Apollo, are you fine or do you need something?
The glow.
Enemies incoming middle. Enemies incoming
Attack.
middle.
Completed.
Ultimate is down.
Your right tower is under attack.
Like a vegetarian. Enemy ultimate down. Enemy ultimate down.
It's both holes. It sucks Mulan came right there. I feel like I should win that trade because I just chased him down. I think my heal damage should have been enough.
tower is under attack. Falling back.
At least I won't have to go divine this game, so I can actually go for some different items that I want.
Retreat!
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
The heat bears down upon you.
Retreat!
The heat bears down upon you. An enemy has been slain. The heat bears down upon you.
Destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Wash them away. They hit like a pain.
Really? Ain't no way we still dying here. That sucks.
The heat bears down upon you.
Your right tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the pyromancer.
They are really tanky though. I just gotta keep building
Be right back.
power, otherwise my 2 will not be good enough.
Enemies in middle lane.
Middle lane. Actually, I don't think I need back. Can't stop farming.
Enemy missing left.
So that's fine.
Attack!
On my way. An enemy has been slain.
I have the last laugh.
An ally has been
That
slain.
is most unfortunate.
In range, wash them away. Bears down upon you. Bears down upon you. An enemy has been slain. Attack fire giant. Thunderbolts of lightning. Very, very scary. Yeah!
On my way. Oops.
Bears down upon you.
Team destroyed the fire giant.
Be right back. On my way.
It's not Aspect Morgan actually, so there is a chance I should run him down. Gotta remember that.
The heat bears down upon you. On my way.
A hot item.
The pyromancer has arrived.
Be careful in the jungle.
He's so low.
I'll defend!
Your right tower is under attack. Oh, you move like it. Your left tower is
Down
under
upon
attack.
you!
Your left tower has been destroyed.
Enemy missing left! Be careful middle! The glow.
Your left phoenix is under attack.
Be careful!
Bathe in the glow. On my way! Ally has been slain!
That is most unfortunate.
Down upon you! Like a flame! The heat bears down upon you! Follow me! The glow.
I thought that was my Apollo, dude. I'm so pissed.
Oh, easy wrong. Oops.
I actually thought that was my Apollo. That is so unfortunate.
Your middle tower has been destroyed.
Difficulties. They're merely the
Your
highest
middle tower
challenges.
is under attack.
He might have stopped them from actually getting a Phoenix though, so that's still worth it.
Destroyed.
Yes.
Bathe in the glow.
Whoops.
Bathe in the
What a great jump.
bears down upon
That shit slowed me more than it did anything else.
Bathe in the glow.
I just gotta look for a big snipe. I should do a decent enough damage now at least to get a good snipe off.
Bathe in the glow.
Your team has destroyed the pyramid. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
No, the Emoji 3! Fuck, that actually potentially just saved things.
Colossal! Bathe
That is most unfortunate.
down upon you.
Your middle phoenix is under attack.
The glow.
Your middle phoenix has been destroyed.
missing. Sorry. The heat bears down upon you. Bears down upon you.
Enemy ultimate incoming!
I don't like these Shimojo ults, man. I really don't. Like, lock them in. We just gotta lock them in. But we are getting shelled, so overall it's not good.
I mean... Oh, sure.
Yes.
Ultimate is ready.
We gotta play some fucking wars, though.
Destroy the fire
Down upon you. Save yourself.
Bro, how is this going so quick, by the way? What the fuck?
Your left Phoenix is under attack.
The heat bears down upon you.
It's a good question. Why he actually is that fast.
The heat bears down upon you. Bathe in the glow.
I got 4k. Gotta get something.
Tasty. The heat bears down
I'll sell my Helm of Radiance. Probably. And then buy something else that can help me snipe a bit better.
Attack the Gold Fury.
Yes. Be careful.
The heat bears down upon you.
I'm actually not full, but... Okay.
I don't know why we bombed the Gold Fury when we should just save it for Phoenix. That kinda sucks.
Curses.
Be careful, right?
Bathe in the glow. The heat bears down upon you.
Maybe just Pen actually. Fuck it. Because the two tanks are definitely the main issue on that team. They're just so hard to kill. Especially if we don't have an ADC that are hitting them all that much. Or if he's just dead.
Be careful.
Bathe in the glow.
I completely forgot Nibble Ring. That's what I should have bought.
The fire giant.
Your team has destroyed the Pyromancer.
Bathe in the glow. The heat bears down upon you. Bathe in the glow. Down you go! Destroy the left enemy down
fucking beats.
You mean ages? It doesn't have beats.
Yeah, never mind. I guess he was transformed.
Yeah. Behind us, behind us.
I don't believe it. That was 2 Vulcan ults. I don't fucking believe it.
Yeah.
That's so fucking annoying.
Save yourself.
Just go split push, boys. Don't risk it for the fire.
Your right tower is under
We can defend
attack.
as 5.
I'll attack right lane.
Enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
Damn. We fucked it. We're just out of position.
Enemies in left lane. Your left phoenix is under attack.
Gonna save our 3k pot at this point. I'm not gonna sell
Your
anything
left
more.
phoenix has been destroyed.
I wasn't planning on getting Pen. Like, I don't really think Pen is that insane. If I have to be honest with you. But they're just all fucking ages.
Ally has been slain.
And Apollo just died again. I do not know how Apollo is dying this much.
Down upon you.
Down has arrived.
Be careful.
Enemy has been slain.
Oh. Good job.
Colossal. Oh, you move like a jaguar. Double kill. Oh, you move like a jaguar. Bears down upon you. Do not understand.
Nice.
Bathe in the glow.
At least we can hit some snipes this game.
Bathe in the glow. Bears down upon you.
It's more like the fact that tanks just don't, like, they take damage anyway. And with crit ADCs being in the game, they just die so fast anyway that Pen is barely even needed. Not to mention the amount of scaling and value you gain out of Int is just way better. I think situationally like this, where it feels like the tanks aren't taking any fucking damage, I'm gonna go for it, because I really feel like they aren't taking any damage.
Bathe in the glow.
So... But in most cases, I just don't really go for it. Damn, how much damage might I do to this?
The enemy
sucks.
team has destroyed the gold fury.
Why aren't they bursting? They were supposed to be bursting it. I was trying to time it since Vulcan ult might be hitting.
Enemy missing.
Tough. I really want Nibble Ring though. Do I just say fuck Hexstone? Go all in on damage here? Fuck it. It's all or nothing, baby. We gotta try. And Nibble Ring is just way too good on Raw.
The enemy team has destroyed the Pyromancer.
We
Your
need
right
war.
tower has been destroyed. Your right tower is under attack.
Be right back. Be right back.
Just need everyone to be buying wards.
Bathe in the glow.
Yeah, I can see your logic for not wanting to
You're
go
chilling, man.
pig as well. I think you can, like, it's just a choice at this point. Like, I just need one defensive option, and in this case, I want to go for the one that gives me defense as well as power, because I'm looking for big snipes. You know?
Enemy ultimate down.
Yes.
Wait, do they have dagger? Or was it just a decoy bug?
The heat bears down upon you.
Someone is really low.
Okay.
Bathe in the glow.
We're just getting out-warded here. That's my main issue. We really need some wards though.
Yeah.
Bathe in the glow.
On my way. I will walk.
Yeah, never mind, boys. We just don't have enough wards for this. We don't know where they are.
Oh.
That sucks. I don't even think Boar would have saved me
That's
there.
crazy.
I'm just looking for like a big sniper or something, and that's the only hope. It's the only hope I really have.
Your left Phoenix has been destroyed.
The rain shall wash them away.
They're just creating so much space for them in these fights that it's just I can't do anything. Because he just looks for me.
Your middle Phoenix has been destroyed.
I did fuck up my positioning here.
Titan's under attack.
Enemy has been slain.
That sucks. It was a fun game, I think, but this felt really bad. Because obviously, since I was playing Ra solo full damage as well, I'm part of the problem here, because we just lacked another frontline to maybe create some space. And then I fucked up by positioning myself in a really stupid position. But, I mean, Apollo also always felt like wasn't really in the game. Because he's kind of the one who's supposed to be doing damage. But unfortunate. Like, Bacchus, especially into Apollo, should never be able to do what he's doing. Was the Aspect Apollo's ADC? It was, but I still think that's fine. I think Aspect is better in every way than the just non-Aspect. Like 90% of the time, I think Aspect is better. Like the only thing you lose is a little bit of attack speed early on, but you don't need that attack speed. It's just kind of nice to have, and you'll make up for it in wave clear because you have more ones. Yeah, you lose scaling on the one, but like, you don't need the one as Apollo. You know, you're not relying on your one damage to kill stuff as Apollo. That's never been the case. You're just purely auto attack, especially in the crit build. That is currently the thing with like a lenient bow and all that stuff. You don't usually kill people with the one. I'll be very surprised. It's a decent extra damage, but again, you just have multiple ones anyway, so you still essentially do the same amount of damage with it. You just gotta press it more. But the only reason you should press the one with the Aspect that's full ADC build is just to get the attack speed boost. You just use it on a god or a boss once and you get attack speed boost out of it. So you still get attack speed in the build. Like, you don't lose anything like essentially in the Aspect by going for it. Like, you just get more defensibility because you get a shield on your 2. You still keep the protection on it, I think your early game is better because the damage or just more abilities is just obviously better for wave clearing than just auto attacks with audacity and attack speed. So I just don't see any reason not to. I don't. I think the shield on the 2 is just better as a plus than losing a bit of damage on the 1.
Select your god.
I could do Ra again. Ra was fun, and now I can actually build full mage. Oh, I hope, maybe. I mean, my usual go-to is just Kukulkan, which would be better into Loki as well, actually. Yeah, let's do Raw game again. Kukulkan is my go-to, but I feel like I have played enough Kukulkan for now. And don't worry, Akila, you should play just fine. Like, we just fucked up late game. I positioned myself bad and got caught. It happens. This will be my last game, though. What is that? This might not be a fun Raw game. I'm gonna get Neith ulted, Dancer ulted, and Loki just already on me. It's gonna be great. Fuck. I mean, I guess I need Hexstone no matter what this game. Because otherwise, I'm in with Baron as well. I have to rush Hexstone. Might go for a second item Hexstone in this one. Rushing Doom Warp, going straight into Hexstone. I also lost because I have the wrong skin on. There we go. Maybe I can win now. Damn. It's a big game, actually. This is a nice lobby. Damn, 69 Seared with Pain. Damn. I got the exact right amount of kills with my snipe last game, I see. I'm winning today. Beats or Aegis? It's gonna be Aegis, because I think Beats is fucking dog shit into Baron anyway.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Alden Vansky when we were trying to get Phoenix was funny, yeah. I had to just go for it. I wasn't defending that shit anyway. Like against 2 people, but so I had to kind of try it. And I'm not gonna do it on the Vulcan with fucking dagger. That's another problem we had last game. I'm not sure we got a single dagger off on my team last game. Everyone fucking died with it. Like we legitimately threw that game because people couldn't fucking press dagger in time. Wow. It was so annoying. Next time I'm taking that fucking dagger. Though I think it's fine in this game, but god damn it. People couldn't fucking press that shit in time. Dagger can be difficult, 100%.
If you
Minions
have come
have
this
spawned.
far, you are already doomed.
I don't have a special emote. Tragic. Do we even have any special emotes outside of the Amma skin? I know the magical girl Amma skin has pretty cool effect to it, or a special, but I don't know if that's it. It's like 10 of them, like of the specials, like the like unique animations on skins. Didn't realize we had that many.
The heat bears down upon you. Bathe the glow. Bathe the glow.
Bask in my glory!
Bathe the glow.
Bask in my glory.
Bathe the glow. The heat bears down upon you.
I have a mana pot? Wait, how did I get a mana pot?
On my way.
I'll fucking take it.
Okay. Enemy missing middle.
First blood! For honor!
Bathe the glow. Enemy spotted. Bathe the glow. The heat bears down upon you.
Enemy spotted.
Bathe the glow.
Enemy has been slain! Out of man.
My strength is boundless. Bathe the glow.
On my way. Attack!
Bathe
Allies
the glow.
slain!
Enemy
Down
ultimate
upon
down.
you.
The rain shall wash them away!
Bathe the glow. The heat bears down upon you.
On my way!
Bathe the glow. The heat bears down upon you. Glory and honor. Bathe the glow. Bathe the glow. Bathe the glow. Ultimate, it's down! Bathe in the glow.
Let's grab Doom Orb.
Enemy spotted.
Feels nice to just buy a full item straight up. Oh, even the Demon Odin has one?
Enemy missing left. Enemy missing right. Unfortunate misstep. Enemy missing middle. Vain the glow. Enemy missing. On my way. Enemies have returned to base. Going.
Enemy spotted.
Weird frame drops as well on the Baron through there.
Help! Bathe in the glow. Behind us!
Oh, the party's this way.
Enemy has been slain. Rain shall wash them away.
Damn.
You're doing
Forgot I didn't have beats, so I
well.
didn't press it before he ulted.
The heat bears down upon you. Bathe in the glow. The heat bears down upon you.
Your left tower is under attack.
Bathe in the glow. The heat bears down upon you. The heat bears down upon you. Damn it!
Am I reading it and not going Hexstone? Fuck. I'm not. I don't want to make a stupid mistake like last time, where I just kept thinking I don't need it, then I needed it.
Your right tower is under
Let's just
attack.
get it over with, get it early, while I actually have damage. Oh shit.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Damn, that's unfortunate. I guess they all saw us back.
Bathe in the glow. Bathe in the glow. Enemy missing. Curses. Enemy spotted.
Enemy spotted.
Enemy has been slain. Enemy ultimate down.
Attack.
The heat bears down upon you.
Your left tower is under attack.
Bathe the heat bears down upon you. The heat bears down upon you. Enemy missing. Bathe in the glow.
Your left tower is under attack.
Hasta la vista. Gank left lane.
The Pyromancer.
Sephiroth bears down upon you.
Your left tower is under attack.
Very good.
I'm kind of on it with the snipes today.
And the rain shall wash them away.
It feels good.
Your middle tower is under attack.
But Rise is just something I wanted to play for a little while. It's just I don't get mid that often, and I think it's really not good to play in solo.
Bears down upon you.
Kind of echoed a bit of my last game. It just isn't as enjoyable.
On my way. Bears down upon you.
Free your soul to the other side.
Oh, every ult in existence down. I'm sad. I kind of fucked up my snipe. I didn't play that well.
Retreat.
Enemy missing.
And I mean, that's maybe why I shouldn't be boring in aggressively instead of. It's not exactly why I bought it. I needed it very badly right there. God damn, man. Could have really fucking used the 4.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Completed.
And I should have saved snipe. I don't know why I sniped in the first place. I was just going for a lucky snipe.
The glow.
If I had it when they all went on me, maybe I could have done some damage back.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Retreat.
No problem. Bears down upon you. An enemy has been slain. Enemy spotted.
Your right tower is under attack.
Gank. Ultimate is down.
Time to take action.
Your team
Have destroyed the Gold Fury.
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been
Masterpieces.
Your left tower is under attack.
My strength is boundless.
Destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Bathe the glow.
Your left tower is under attack.
The rain shall wash them away.
Damn, Bensky not having a great time over there. Struggling. I'm not complaining though. That fits me just fine.
Enemy missing.
Bathe the glow. For honor.
Definitely gotta get more cooldown. My snipe is not up nearly enough.
Bathe in the glow.
I won't let you down.
Greetings, ally.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. The heat bears down upon you. Retreat, right lane. Bathe the glow. The heat bears down upon you. Enemy missing middle. Bathe the glow.
Free your souls to the
Nothing is even happening.
Your right tower is under attack.
Bathe in the glow.
Your right tower is under attack. The enemy team has destroyed the pyramids. Your left tower has been destroyed. Your left tower is under attack.
Oh well.
The heat.
Your right tower is under attack.
Not really sure I would have secured anyway, to be honest. It's not like I have that much power yet. My beam to Pyre probably only does like 200. That was a huge one for them too. Didn't we just lose tier 2 because of it?
Enemy spotted!
On my way.
Bathe.
The party's
Damn. It's unfortunate. We got at least the 2 kills, so it's just a 2 for 2. It just sucks that we won a clean 2v2 and someone else showed up. Damn.
Rupa Hanks!
free your soul.
No, get me out of there. Hey, Cherry, thank you for the raid, man.
The pyro has
You!
Damn. Actually, probably saved my life with that.
My strength is boundless! You rule for honor!
That pillar.
Attack the Gold Fury Giant! Enemy spotted! Ward here! Bathe the glow! Enemy set the Gold Fury!
Your right tower is under attack.
Bathe the glow! An unfortunate mistake. Enemies at the Gold Fury.
A hot item.
Enemy missing.
Ultimate is ready.
Ward here. Vain.
Your right tower is under attack.
Use the rains and wash them away.
On my way.
Enemy ultimate down.
I hit someone. Just not the target I was going for.
Destroyed a middle enemy tower.
The heat bears down upon you. Vain.
Magnificent. Attack the
On my
Gold
way.
Fury.
Okay.
I won't let you down.
Vain.
Hey, wait a minute.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
I'm always slightly too early on that.
Down upon you. Defend the fire giant. Vain. The glow. On my way. I will warn.
Enemy spotted.
Vain. The glow.
Stand with me, I'm big action.
Vain. Enemies in the right lane.
Your team has destroyed the pyramids. Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
The heat bears down upon you. Be careful. Be right back.
Your right tower is under attack.
Next up, I absolutely need Nibble Ring.
Enemy spot. Enemy missing.
Your right tower is
Enemy
under
ultimate
attack.
down.
On my way. On my way.
The party's your right tower is under attack. Your right tower is destroyed. Your right tower is under attack.
Double kill. You're welcome. My strength is boundless. Vain.
Your right tower has been destroyed.
Enemy spotted. Vain. Vain. The heat bears down.
Your team has destroyed the fire tower.
Vain. The glow. On my way. Need healing. Enemies have returned. Be careful.
That's unfortunate.
Retreat!
Vain. The glow. The heat bears down upon you.
How much much do I need for this shit? So much. So much gold needed.
Attack right lane!
Ultimate is ready.
The heat bears down upon you! Enemy ultimate down!
That's unfortunate.
Enemy missing! Enemy spotted! The heat bears down upon you! The heat bears down upon you! You move like a jaguar!
The pyro. Free your soul.
Sorry!
Didn't realize people needed healing. Should have maybe healed there instead.
Down upon you! Enemy has been slain!
I'll attack.
Little enemy Phoenix.
Wash them away!
Follow your heart.
No. Damn.
Enemy has been slain!
Yeah, absolute idiots. These absolute idiots, man.
Another great hunt!
Get the wave at the end. Fuck. Maybe I do a World Stone for snipes, because apparently that's something I can actually hit today. But once I build that, I will never hit a snipe again. Maybe I just do Bloodbound Book. Like, I don't need to build a pen this game. It's only Baron, and he is definitely not a problem so far. You know what? Maybe I just go Necro, considering it's kind of going well for me. Uh-oh. Ruler might be done.
Oh, he's the wrong team, I am sorry.
I almost felt bad for you.
War the fire giant!
It's really annoying that it shows dagger on a lot of people.
Free your soul. To the others.
clean.
My strength is
Alright. I mean, perfect game for me to end it on, right? Oh, I already thought I had a triple, this would be a Penta. It's my first Penta in a while. I actually haven't got that many in Smite 2. I know if all of it is on Raw, which is pretty funny, but I mean, when you're playing Nibble Ring, you have such a consistent damage output that you almost feel like a hyper carry, honestly. Anyway, that's gonna be it for me. So much short stream today, even though it kind of feels like the same length as usual, but I want to go back to playing some Elden Ring. I gotta make some, walk the dog and make some food and all that stuff as well, but Ra is really good. I mean, part of the reason why Ra feels good in the current meta, I think, is because of Hexstone. He's someone that can still deal a pretty good amount of damage. Just, I mean, it's intelligence in general, right? It's any mage. But if you build Hexstone, you still do a bunch of damage. And you can reposition with Hexstone. Like, I kind of got caught, you know, like by the Baron and the Loki in the beginning of that fight specifically. But I just Hexstone out of there. Don't have to worry about a thing. But anyway, guys, thank you for stopping by, as usual. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!